All right, guys, welcome to the K Nation Movement Podcast. My name is Aryan Fazeli. I'm the founder of Ketovation and K Nutri. And today I have a very special guest with me, Marc Lafleur, founder of truLOCAL. So why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about truLOCAL itself and how you get started.
Awesome, thanks. Well, super happy to be here. So truLOCAL, I guess we got started about 2.5 years ago, and we do online meat sales right now. So essentially you can go online, fully customize the box and find local farmers, suppliers in your area that do high quality meat products. So we have everything from RWA, which is raised without antibiotics, down to, we have organic products. We have 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. We have some of our artisanal chicken program on the website, as well as wild-caught fish. So obviously fish being the only product that we have that's not from Ontario. There's not too much of a selection of fish in Ontario, but we do have Ontario pickerel, we have Ontario perch, and then we have wild-caught Alaskan salmon and some cod. So kind of got into this out of university, I guess. And now here we are 2.5 years later, just expanded out into BC, and business has been going really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're big fans of you guys. We don't really cross advocate with other companies, but as soon as I saw you guys locally in Ontario, we're based out of Toronto, I knew we had to connect somehow because I'm just a big fan of what you guys represent. And taking back to basic fitness, nutrition, I'm sure you guys started with all that somehow that kind of led to you being passionate about getting organic meats or quality meats to people's dinner tables.
Yeah, for sure. I guess if we're going way back, my degree's in health. So when I was in university, ironically, first and second year, didn't care at all about my health, right? So it is what it is. I'll buy meat from wherever. Drink on the weekends, just kind of for second year, right? So after that, when I was in university, when I graduated, I ended up getting a job working for a meat company. And people kind of always ask how that happened, and I couldn't tell you. Like I said, my degree's in health, so I don't know how I ran into this. But the pay was really good, and it started kind of educating me on what goes on in the meat industry. And I think a lot of people kind of have this as well, where they don't really know the difference between farm or butcher quality meat compared to conventional grocery store meat. And I didn't know it either. And it wasn't until I tried the stuff side by side and started learning about it that I realized this is probably hands down one of the best investments you can make. When it comes to food, I'd say meat's probably one of the most controversial topics. Right. And I also think it has the biggest differences between high quality and low quality. So now I haven't eaten grocery store meat literally probably in about, I want to say almost maybe 5 years now. So working for that company really gave me it was an awesome experience, got a lot of business knowledge from it, a lot of personal experience, but also gave me a lot of knowledge when it came to how to kind of find better quality meat products. And then we took all of that into truLOCAL, and that's kind of been the foundation of what we built the business on.
That's awesome. Would you say that, I think, meat is misunderstood based on, the direction that it took over the last, 50 to 100 years in terms of production?
Yeah, for sure. Is meat misunderstood? I don't know. I think meat is just overused. I would definitely say that. I think that there's no doubt, there's no denying the fact that meat's contributing to one of the biggest contributors to global warming. The agricultural landscape is really, really bad when it comes to factory farming. And the whole problem is that meat wasn't supposed to be cheap. Meat wasn't supposed to be, $2.99 a pound. And if you think about raising an animal, if it takes 2 years to raise cattle properly, there should only be a limited amount of meat to go around. But because of consumer demand, people want to eat steak every single night. Well, like every other industry, they found a way to drive the cost down, start mass producing it, and that's where the issues lie. So ironically, I always say I truly don't believe that truLOCAL is a meat company. Our slogan is even connecting you to the source, and truLOCAL connecting you to the source is all about giving people an easy and convenient way to find quality producers, quality farmers, quality butchers in their area. I don't necessarily advocate for people to eat more meat. I don't think that people should be going out and eating more meat. I think people should eat less meat, but the meat that they do eat should be better quality. And I think that's kind of where we're kind of able to be in the middle. And we want to provide meat products, but we also want to source it sustainably and educate people on how meat can be good as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I agree. The quality of meat is so important. And, over the last 10, 20 years, you've seen an increase in the amount of processed meat, even in fast food. Take the beef that you would find in a McDonald's patty and assess where that comes from versus a steak that maybe you guys source from a local farmer. That journey of connecting with local farmers, I'm sure has to be one of the best parts of your job. Meeting people that are, raising antibiotic-free or hormone-free animals and really providing the most natural source of meat. So, how has that been able to help you guys build a sense of community and kind of connect with people all across Canada?
For sure, yeah. So it's funny. My social media has definitely gotten a lot cooler since starting the business now that I actually do exciting things. So obviously the most exciting part is being able to go and see these suppliers. So even when I worked at the last company, I got a really good knowledge of meat, like the different cuts of meat, what people are looking for when it comes to meat, but I never actually got down to the producer level. So I didn't really understand the farmers and what the difference are between a farmer, a packager, a supplier, a cutter, all these different things. They all have different meanings and different terms. And there are small scale farms and there are large scale farms too that are great, not just because it's a big farm doesn't mean it's a factory farm. So I would definitely say that being able to go and meet these farmers has got to be one of the best parts of the job. And like I said before, one of the things I didn't get at my old job was being able to go down to that level. Well, with truLOCAL, I've been to every single farm that we go to. So I'm talking about BC a lot just because we just expanded out there, but the final frontier for us at Atcho has been the seafood. So I've been to our artisanal chicken farmers. I've been to every single supplier we dealt with. Our team has been, we actually do something called truLOCAL TV where we go to the farms and do Facebook Live and Instagram TV and show people around because they have such amazing operations. But the one thing was always fish. So we just got the opportunity while we were out in BC, because obviously Vancouver being a massive fishing port, we went finally on a commercial fishing boat for salmon. And this is wild caught salmon. This is hook and line salmon, no nets. And I actually pulled salmon out of the water. It was actually the craziest experience. So that definitely is a huge exciting part about it, about the job. And I think it's funny because back in university, I never would have thought that was cool. And I'd just be like, okay, like going to farms and stuff. But when I actually started seeing the difference, like this is the stuff that's on my plate, going and seeing how it's being raised, it does make a big difference. I think that's what people resonate with what truLOCAL is all about.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some advantages for people to opt for, rather than going out and getting fast food, to prepare like fresh, healthy meals?
Yeah, well, I always say this, we're not doctors, but what our biggest thing is obviously the quality of the food you're eating, I would say, is equally as important as what you're eating, right? So if you think that eating a salad, let's say for you, a salad with chicken, lean sort of meat is a good diet, that's great, no problem, go ahead and do that. But I would say equally as important as where is that produce coming from and where is that meat coming from, right? I'm trying to blank here. What was the other question again? Going on a tangent.
Yeah, no, just like the benefits of sticking with something like truLOCAL, or finding local meats that are organic.
Sorry, a little blank.
Yeah.
So long story short, like our biggest thing is that we don't necessarily say one meat is better than the other, right? You can make your own inferences. Our biggest thing is giving people the information so they can make the decision themselves. So I think there's a lot of companies out there when they offer a specific type of meat or a specific type of product, it's in their best interest to go ahead and promote that product and talk about how that product is better than anything else. To give you an example, this is the best example, is grass-fed, grass-finished versus corn-fed. We offer both. Okay, there is in no way, shape, or form is one better than the other. If you start talking to a meat connoisseur, I promise you right now, he's going to tell you that he'd rather have a marbled steak rather than a lean grass-fed, grass-finished steak. But on the other hand, for some people, they want a grass-fed, grass-finished product. So if you don't offer grass-fed, grass-finished, it's probably in your best interest to say that, oh, corn-fed is better, and this is a grass-fed, corn-finished product, and kind of work around that terminology. And vice versa, if you're in the grass-fed space, you're more likely to say, hey, what, grass-fed, grass-finished is the way to go. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just they're fit for different lifestyles. If you're more health conscious, if health is a big part of your diet and it's more so than taste and quality of in terms of, I guess, taste and cookability or whatever that word would be, then yeah, grass-fed, grass-finished is absolutely gonna be the way to go. I eat grass-fed, grass-finished. I love it. We use a farm just actually not too far from here, about an hour from here in Peterborough. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's our biggest thing, is just giving people all the information they need to make those decisions for themselves. And I think that's kind of what helps people in terms of building a healthy diet and figuring out what means most to them. Right.
And like you said, it depends on individuality. I mean, some people don't even like meat. Some people would rather have seafood or whatever it may be. Like for me, I know I'm a big meat eater for my entire life. It's always been really hard for me to have like a lunch or a dinner that didn't have some sort of protein source, either from chicken or meat. And what I love most about truLOCAL and other companies that are similar to yours is providing like that foundation for a healthy meal, So kind of getting rid of any excuse to not eat poorly and finding a way to get nutritious, nutrient dense food in their meals, and kind of take away that excuse to go out and get something that is fast and quick but may not necessarily be the best for your health. And so you guys are obviously, you're a business, you've been growing for the past 2-3 years. Take me back to the beginning, and there must have been a lot of struggles. I know personally, I've seen your Instagram. I love what you guys are doing, and I really enjoy this sense of community. And people may think that this kind of just happened overnight, like you got connected with someone and this person told you about this thing, and it just kind of got rolling. But I'm sure there must have been a lot more struggles.
Yeah, for sure. I can guarantee you that like anybody who's in business, runs a business, works in a startup, anything like that, I can tell you that you just get kicked in the nuts every single day. Like literally every single day there's some sort of fire that comes up that you got to put out. I guess this whole thing started for me, but it started like a long time ago. Like this is my third business. So back when I was in university, me and some friends started an app called Tell, which is an instant messaging app. Total failure. And then moved on to the next thing. We tried to build a sharing economy platform, and essentially it would let you, think like Craigslist, but for universities. So essentially you could go online, post a task, be like, I want someone to walk my dog, I'll pay them $20. Or I want someone to come help me clean up after this crazy kegger I just had, I'll pay you $30. And then students in the area could go ahead and see what the tasks are available. So yeah, it was fun. We made it, and the thing about it is that I took what I learned from Tell into that project, made it a little bit further. It also failed. And then the next step was, okay, you know what? The one thing I realized while doing both of those is that it was always part-time for me. Like it was always a hobby, part-time. I didn't want to take that risk of like actually quitting my job and committing to something fully. So when it came time to kind of mull over the idea of truLOCAL, I started looking at it and saying, look, I think I have the knowledge. I've done this twice. I've gone through it. We've dealt with investors. We've dealt with marketing. We've hired. We've gotten initial traction. We've developed products. I think I can take that, and I think we can run with it with truLOCAL. So that was the biggest step, was actually deciding that, hey, I'm going to quit my job to make this happen. So once we got that sort of off the ground, it was just a grind every single day. Like, obviously our old company wasn't too happy that we were leaving. We had a lot of competitors in the space. I think that getting something, we also thought that we were going to run this out of our garage for the first, a few months, which didn't happen at all. That lasted about 2 weeks. And then we started working out of the sketchiest warehouse garage you'd ever believe. It was on Torbrum by the airport, but it was our sketchy garage, right? Like it was kind of, I would never bring anybody there. And if people saw that we worked out of there, they'd probably stop working with us immediately. But it was kind of ours. It was the real startup. Right now, it was just me and Greg. So I started the business with a guy named Greg Quayle, and it was just me and him. And we would literally go there in the morning, pack boxes, do some cold calls in the afternoon, and then do a trade show at night or do a booth or something. We went door to door selling the product. We were also working with our developer to help build the website. We did our own marketing, did branding, all that type of stuff. So those are kind of the grinding days. And I think the biggest thing that people need to realize, especially when it comes to business, is that if you take one look at our Instagram and think that that's what our daily lives are in terms of like trying to operate the business, like it's just not what it is. People always talk about Instagram lives. Instagram is a reflection of who we are and what we're about, but it's not necessarily what we do on a day-to-day basis. So a big thing for anybody out there trying to get into business is understanding how to kind of graduate through different steps. So in the early days, you have to do everything, right? You're always spending time working on your business. You're working literally, you are packing the boxes, you are going to meet suppliers, you're all doing this type of stuff. And the struggle with a lot of people is that it's very hard to move to the next step of either hiring or scaling or taking that extra step personally and taking yourself to the next level where you're going to work those 40 hours in your business and then put another 20, 30, 40 working on your business. And that's just a time that's a dark time for a lot of people that are trying to get into business because it's hard. So then from there, that's when we're working out of the warehouse. And then we just kind of always really got lucky that putting a brand together like this and trying to fulfill on that brand, we had a lot of really supportive customers. And honestly, no word of a lie, like you deal with a lot of shit trying to start a business, but every time a customer kind of just, give you some sort of like, whether it be a good review or give you some sort of kind of like, just like a email pat on the back, like it kind of helps you through a lot of that. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but it really does make a big difference. So from there, we were able to hire our first 2 employees and just started growing it from there. And then we eventually moved out of our warehouse. We did that for 1 year, which is nice. Graduated into an actual proper facility where we could connect easier with our farmers. It was easier for them to get their products in there. And then now we're working out of an office in downtown Kitchener. So things have grown significantly. And the biggest thing that's grown is obviously our team. And like, you read about it, people talk about it. It's one of the biggest things, but like the only reason we are where we are today is because of our team. Like the way our team interacts with our customers, the way our team is able to get things out the door, the way our team is able to just like embody everything that truLOCAL has been about is what has kind of gotten us and allowed us to look so cool on social media while still, growing the business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the most important thing is making a direct impact. Like you said, getting emails or seeing people that are satisfied with, the impact that you're making in their lives. It's got to fuel what you're doing. And I'm sure you started this because you're passionate about meat, you're passionate about business, but you're also passionate about getting people healthier. For you now, I know, like for myself, the impact is everything, right? Like seeing someone's transformation and having them say, like, I went from depressed to healthy in the matter of a few months and totally changed my life around is like, that's what fuels me every single day. It's also what fuels me to get in the gym, stay healthy myself, and stay healthy because, I have to be a role model in that sphere. I can't be a business owner that's preaching, to people that need to stay healthy and get active, but be on the couch eating potato chips myself. So for you, I know that you exercise and you're fit. So what was that, history of sports for you? And kind of, you talked about in university you stopped exercising for a bit or eating well, which, I did the same. But now, how do the two and two go align, with your job and your fitness routine? Yeah,
I think fitness, I would say fitness over health, just because one thing that's been relatively consistent over the past few years is the gym. Now, eating well, that's a fluctuation. That's the daily battle. But I don't think it's necessarily that those particular things have to go hand in hand. It could be anything else. It could be, I don't care if it's chess. I don't care if it's skydiving. I don't care if it's watching sports. Like, it's that work-life balance, right? And there's absolutely, I see it all the time, and maybe this is just my opinion on it, but I talk to so many people who are like, yeah, you have to have a healthy work-life balance. And you see successful entrepreneurs talk about, yep, have that good work-life balance. But I always laugh because I'm like, yeah, but we're talking, you're talking from the context of your third or fourth business. Things are good, things are rocking and whirling, and you have a work-life balance. I love talking to first-time entrepreneurs, and by first time I mean like the first, I guess, or the successful business. Work-life balance is hard, man. Like, it really, really is. So you only have enough time and energy to focus on work and maybe one or two other things. And one of them, obviously, be family right off the bat, friends and family when possible. But then the other one, a lot of people could be like, oh, I go out on the weekends, or I do something that isn't helping me personally or helping my business. Me, it just so happens that the one thing I can't, if I'm not working out, everything else falls apart. So where I was going with this is that whether it be health or fitness or something else, you just got to make sure to have that sort of what is the anchor that's aside from work. So for me, it's just I work out in the mornings, and like if I work out, that's how I start my day. It sets the tone for me. It forces me to get out of bed early, and I'm not a morning guy, like in any way, shape, or form. And if anybody who knows me from back in the day, like they would not believe you if you told them that I was up before, I don't know, the sun is up any single day. But I think a lot of people say this too. It's not that we want to be getting up early; it's out of necessity at this point. So I get up early, I go to the gym, and it just starting to go to the gym in the mornings changed everything for me. I started being more productive. I started working better. I have more energy. So that's a huge, huge thing that like doesn't really fluctuate. Like that is a big thing for me. And if I miss it, like I have to work a lot harder throughout the course of the day to make sure to stay on track, just in terms of productivity even. So that's a big thing for me. In terms of eating healthy, I know how important it is and I care about it so much. I will say one thing, I don't ever eat bad meat. So that's one thing. Doesn't matter if you're a struggling startup and you have no money, but at least we get to eat like kings. That's the perks of this job. But I eat good meat, but my diet, it goes up and down. Like a couple months on, couple months off. I have like a personal battle against sugar. Like, man, this is the worst drug on the planet. Like I'm telling you that right now. It is insane. Like I always joke, I can't even get off like Subway cookies. Like literally, like I can't get off Subway cookies. I have so much respect for people who like quit smoking. You know what I mean? Like I can't even just quit eating junk food. So it'll be on and off. And then of course, it's one of those things like, when do I want to take myself to the next level? Like I've got work on pat. I feel like at this point in my life, I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm in the zone. We've been doing this for 2.5 years. Things are in a good place. And I feel like I'm getting better every day in my work life. And I feel like my fitness is there as well. I know that I'm very self-aware of that. If I want to take it to the next level, well, diet, sleep, those are things that I've got to start locking down to take myself to the next level as well. So that's kind of what it plays in my life. So it's definitely a big part. It affects every aspect of what I do.
Yeah, that's cool. That whole idea of work-life balance, I mean, we talked about this with Pat Viller on the show as well. It's never really a complete balance. I mean, it's always dynamic. It's always shifting back and forth. And I think people who, like me or like yourself, who, their diet will fluctuate. Sometimes they're not able to diet in 100%. It's more of a discouragement rather than understanding that it's never going to be perfect. I find that most people quit trying to eat healthy or trying to work hard or trying to get fit because it doesn't go directly up in a linear fashion, their progress relative to time. And I think it's so important to just remember that there's going to be some bad days,
Yo, I'm so happy you said that. Like, I couldn't agree more. So many people think that if you have one bad day or if you're out of the zone for 1 minute, that it's game over. And ironically, that's the thought that makes it game over, because then you just give up for the rest of the week. One thing I got really lucky with, I think that the quicker you can learn to become self-aware, the quicker you can reflect on why things happen, the quicker you can take a second to kind of analyze yourself, your flaws, what works and what doesn't. That's when you really start taking things to the next level. And I understand that I'm going to have a bad weekend. And instead of fighting against it, I'm like, yo, this weekend, I know it's going to be bad. I can tell myself today I'm going to stop eating, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to be really dialed in. But people always know, in the back of your head, if you're starting a diet, if you're going to stick with that or not, right? So I say, if you know you're about to have a bad weekend, just enjoy the weekend. If you're going to eat junk food that weekend, eat it. But make the promise to yourself that come Monday, you're going to get back on track. And I think that's got to be one of the biggest things. And people always talk about how business is a marathon, right? Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. And they talk about how it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You got to be ready to go. I think it's the complete opposite. I think that, once again, being self-aware, it's to understand when to sprint and to take those rests when you can. When you're dealing with startups, and the reason I was kind of back to business is because it's a big part of my life right now, is that it's growth at all costs. People want to push the business forward. They've always got to be growing, or they see this sort of sense of failure. And that's an okay, I guess, model to think about when you think about a startup, but that doesn't mean you have to be killing yourself every single day, right? You can be in the zone for a week and take a day where you are just reflecting, you're thinking, you're planning, you're plotting, you're figuring out what's coming next. That's okay to do that, right? So I think that business is more of selective sprints. It's figuring out when to sprint instead of doing a marathon and always being on the go. And then by the time you're done your marathon, you're completely dead. I'd rather see, okay, your first few months, sprint. And then you got things established. Your infrastructure is set up. You just hired a couple good employees and you're now growing. The models you've implemented in terms of sales and marketing are scaling. Okay, well, you know what? Now it's okay to take a second to breathe, to do what you got to do, especially if you're feeling burnt out. So it's a series of sprints, but then as soon as you see that next opportunity, right? As soon as you see the next something dipping, or there's a problem happening, or there's an opportunity off in the distance, you sprint at that again. So looking at it, I think people think the same way with their diets, right? They got to look at it where it's like, I can't mess this up. I can't take a break. It's a marathon. I got to do this. Well, I don't think it has to be that way. You're never going to be perfect. And I think the quicker people can understand that, it's just, if instead of being, bad, or doing something that isn't conducive to your diet or your workout plan or whatever skill you're trying to learn, instead of it being 50-50, it's okay for it to be 70-30. So you're on 70% of the time and you're off 30. There's nothing wrong with that. You're netting out that you're doing something good, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. Everyone has such unique lives, There's no way that you could replicate someone else's journey, whether you're talking about business or diet. Most people, they get lost in the idea of self-comparison or comparison to others. So they'll look at where they're at in a business and they'll compare to someone else. And they'll say, you know what, they've been at it for 2 years, I've been at it for 2 years, but I'm not there yet. But you know what, your journey is different. Same thing with someone who's on a diet or starting a fitness plan. They'll look at this person who's been doing it at the same time as them, and if they're not there yet, then they're like, well, what's wrong with me? But you know what? Maybe you got school to deal with. Maybe you got a kid to deal with. Maybe you got this job you got to put 60 hours a week at. So whatever it may be, the most important advice, at least that I can give, is just to focus on your own lane, because everyone's journey is going to be different. And the most important thing that people can do is focus on what's in their control. And when you let that outside stuff in, and we talk about this a lot with Instagram and how it's a highlight reel, especially for the fitness and nutrition field, especially for the business field, it's always people posting their 100% accomplishments. I wish people would post their failures more often. I think it would give the average person a lot more inspiration rather than seeing 100% success every single time, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, you know what they say, right? Like work hard in silence and let success do the talking. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. I think that if you are letting yourself get taken down by seeing what other people are doing on Instagram, you're not focusing on your own self enough. And that's something that I was lucky enough to learn early on. And I've always kind of been driven on my own lane, and people talk about your 20s being your selfish years. Well, let alone being in your 20s and trying to run a business, or being in your 20s and having a goal like trying to be fit. You need to be selfish. You should not care about what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter. You need to focus on what you have going on in your life, and that's how you're going to become someone like them. Like the people that you're looking at and idolizing, do you think they're looking at you back? Of course not. They're focusing on their lane, and that's what's most important to them, right? And I think that a lot of people should look at it and understand that. And I wish that we talk about self-awareness and reflection. A lot of people don't talk that way, where it's like, look, people kind of talk superficially about, well, Instagram's a highlight reel. Well, like, no, you should believe that. You gotta understand it, that the people that are doing really, really well, unless it's an influencer or something like that, like influencers, their job is based on posting on social media, but most people that are doing really well don't really post that much on social media, especially if they're in the middle of the grind, right? They're able to post after the fact. And it would be nice to see more people post kind of like just their regular things, their downfalls, you know, the issues that they're having. That's why I love talking on that, because like, it's hard, man. It's supposed to be hard. Like there is no such thing as an overnight success. There's no such thing as people getting lucky. It's just hard work and focus. And I think that if, like I said, if you're getting taken down by what you're seeing on social media, the first thing you need to do is be like, I'm spending too much time thinking about where they're at or where they need to be. If I just put that extra 20% focus on my own lane, get 20% better results. And in fitness, that's pretty good results.
Yeah. I mean, if people, like you said, self-awareness is so important. I think that, you know, comes before any sort of success in whatever step you want to take. And if, you know, anyone's listening and they're struggling, stop scrolling and just get to whatever you need to do. Literally, just stop scrolling on Instagram and put whatever plan you need in place to get to that next step in your life. We talk a lot about staying focused and being consistent. I mean, that's our motto. It's been our motto since day one. Everyone that's joined the program and has done well has implemented those, and anyone I've seen become successful at anything has revolved around the idea of staying focused over a long period of time and being consistent with their actions no matter what. So how has that kind of applied to what you've done with not just fitness, but you know, truLOCAL and what you've done in the process?
So in like a midterm kind of thing, you're absolutely right. Like when you focus on something, the only way you're going to be successful on it is if you focus on it ongoing. It's easy to want to be a millionaire for a week until it's like, ooh, gotta work on a Saturday. I don't care. I don't do that anymore, right? It's easy to focus on being, you know, completely, you know, going to the CrossFit games for 3 months, right? Oh, then you get a little tweak and you're like, I'm out of it now, right? The only way to be successful is to find that goal, find that vision, whatever it might be. It could be anything. And that is everything that you think about every single day, every single night. And it can't be something superficial like I want to be rich. It can't be something superficial. I don't know, something in the fitness thing that would be superficial. It's got to be something that at your core has to happen. Like I can't live without this. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I talk about this, like we know a lot of people now, lucky enough, being able to network in the startup community and dealing with that type of stuff. You meet a lot of successful people. But one of the people that I know that is the most driven and the most, I would argue, committed to what they've done is actually a friend I met in university. And she went to school to go, I'm always butcher, she's gonna punch me in the head, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, one or the other. Either way, it took a lot of school. And I know a lot of friends in first year that wanted to be dentist. I wanted to be a dentist in first year, you know, that wanted to be a doctor. And once again, after first year, you're like, you know what? I don't think I need to be a doctor anymore. She has, since first year, not wavered from that goal and has pushed through for the past how many years. And now she's doing one of the youngest to graduate, her, once again, master's, PhD, whatever she's working on right now. But every time I talk to her, it's the same goal, same consistent thing. It hasn't changed since however long. And another kind of way to look at it is I think athletes, you know, rappers, artists, it could be anything. It doesn't matter. Whoever's a master, professional at their craft, I think they're the most blessed people on the planet, and not because of the lifestyle they live, but because they were lucky enough to find what motivated them. They were lucky enough to find something that was so important to them that they could spend their entire life doing it at an early age. And they were lucky enough, or not lucky, I guess the wrong word, but they were committed enough to put everything else second. Right? Most of us, I would say 80% of us, live in a world where, let's say you're an amazing soccer player at the age of 6. Well, I can tell you right now, you're probably still gonna have to go to school, and you're still gonna have to do these other responsibilities, and soccer is like a reward or something like, or a privilege, right? Well, the people that are now pro soccer players and all this type of stuff, it wasn't like that for them. School was important, all this type of stuff is important, money's important, all this type of stuff is important, but to them, that goal, that soccer, it was the most important thing, and they were able to do that throughout their entire lives. I think they're really lucky for that, because I think a lot of people nowadays, it's so cookie cutter, right? Go to high school, go to university, get a generic job, work your way up through that ladder. But is that really what you want to do? And the reason you don't know what you want to do, I think, is because you never had an opportunity to explore, to find out what you did want to do. And when you did find what you wanted to do, you were throwing all these other things that you should be doing and weren't able to focus on it and make it that guiding star in your life. So I think a lot of kids graduate and they don't have that commitment over time. I think that's one of the biggest struggles just today with people going off to school and trying to start things where it's, okay, I'm cool. I want this right now. I want to be fit. I want to be healthier right now. And I want to, make it to the CrossFit Games or do this fitness competition. But 2, 3, 4 weeks later, they completely forget about it. And what's more important to them now is going and hanging out with their friends and getting drunk on the weekend. Yeah.
And I think all of that is built on a foundation of hard work. I mean, it always comes back to hard work. When I was in high school, I got into decent shape by just working hard. I was never that fit when I was younger, but I had to eat really well and exercise. And then going into university, I wanted to become a dentist. So it's funny that you mentioned that. So I went to university. First year, I completely let go of my diet. I stopped exercising. I thought that all I had to do was study, and I would get good grades, and then the rest of it would be easy. So fast forward, after my first year, I'm like 40 pounds overweight. And that's where I learned about the ketogenic diet, which is what, Ketovation was predicated on. So I lost, a lot of weight, and it kind of sparked this like passion and this curiosity inside me. And so meanwhile, I'm like lugging along university, going through my undergrad, still trying to go to dentistry school. So I get to my 4th year. I had some pretty good grades, some decent grades, and some of them weren't so good, but I went through my application process. I ended up getting rejected to the school I wanted to go to, which was in New York, NYU. And the same day I got rejected, my best friend got accepted. Oh. And we were supposed to go and become roommates and live in New York. And we were like talking about these plans we had. And it was like it was a horrible day for me. I'll never forget it. I was sitting at my kitchen table and I couldn't believe it. So he's like, you know what, don't give up. Like, I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, if this is what I want to do, I got to go after it. So I spent months emailing the head coordinator of the admissions office. I'm like, I deserve to be at least given an interview. I'm like, yes, I had one bad grade on my transcript, but I did everything I could to get into the school. So I kept, emailing my midterm exams, letters from professors, like anything I could to get them to notice me. And I even told her, I'm like, I'm going to fly down there myself if I got to talk to the head of the admissions. So fast forward 4 months, I got an interview offer, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Yo, that's actually amazing. I love that. That's amazing.
It was probably like one of the most surreal moments of my life, because it really showed that, persistence and this dedication would pay off. And I couldn't believe that, I got it. So I flew down to New York, did my interview. 4 days later, I got accepted. And so that in itself was like an unbelievable moment, but it didn't necessarily feel right. And although it was like this surreal moment that like I was able to turn around a rejection into an acceptance in like 4 months and like get everything I wanted, it just didn't feel right. And so, I got accepted to the school, and I was like, this is supposed to be like the best moment of my life. I've been working towards this for years and years, all the studying, all the grind, and it just didn't necessarily feel right. So I deferred my acceptance for a year, and I was like, you know what, I really got to think about this, because this is a big, big commitment. Once you commit to this career, you probably got to stick to it. So took a year off, and I started exploring. I started looking at nutrition again, the ketogenic diet and exercise, and I started talking to people and helping people. And so I helped a couple of people that year lose, an enormous amount of weight and kind of transform their lives. And when it came a couple months for me to get ready and go to school, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is right for me. So I flushed, $10,000 down the toilet, which was my, admissions and my deposit and all that. And I ran into my professor who used to come into the restaurant that I worked at the time. And so I was like, do you have room in your lab for me? So I ended up doing my master's. I just finished it 2 weeks ago. And I got, thank you. I got my master's studying the ketogenic diet and obesity and breast cancer. And so that path was never set, and it was like, it's never as easy as something laid in stone, and you just go through the journey. And part of it is the excitement of not knowing and figuring things out as you go. And so same story with you, like you had businesses that didn't necessarily work out until you got to truLOCAL, and that's where your passion was, and that's why you were able to stick to it.
Yeah. Okay. So I gotta interview you now because this is an amazing story. So a couple things on this. So first of all, I think everything happens for a reason. So the fact that this amazing thing happened to you, which I just want to touch on real quick, but the fact that you then decided that it wasn't what was for you, and if you didn't go through all that, you might not have realized that this is your calling, right? Like I think that that's one of the most amazing things ever. But I want to ask, like, what didn't feel right about it when you, because you said that you flew out, you got this done. Like, what didn't feel right?
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy because dentistry for me was always a good career. You know, it would be a great salary, and two of my other friends were doing it, and actually one of them just graduated. The other one is graduating next year. But I looked at the journey of going out to New York, the loans that I would have to take out, and kind of like the grind of doing it, and it's not something I look forward to. And that's when it clicked to me. You hear all these cliche things like, oh, if it doesn't feel like work, then that's what you got to do, or think about something that you'd like to do for free, and if it's something you're passionate about. So there's a million cliche things you could say about finding your passion through work, but I thought about, like, anytime I sat down with someone and I was like, explain to them what, say, the keto diet was, or how they can get on track with exercise or nutrition, I was like, that didn't feel like work to me. I loved it. I could spend hours talking to someone about how they can change their life around with diet and exercise, and it never ever felt like work. Like, they'd be like, hey, can you come to talk to my mom? She wants to fix her diet or start exercise. I was like, yeah, I'll be there, like tonight, like when. And it didn't matter if I had like a 12-hour day or a 14-hour day, like I would be there. Exactly. And so one of the first people I helped was my manager at my restaurant. He lost 40 or 50 pounds after never really being able to dial in his nutrition, and he's kept it off and been happy ever since. And so that for me was like, that was the moment. It was like, if I am so concerned about the money or the grind, then it's probably not something I want to do. And so it took that year to reflect, and it really was the best decision I ever made. And I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I didn't spend all those years studying and working hard, right? It's not like I figured out my path by just waking up one day and being like, this is what I want to do. Like, I had to work insanely hard for years and years and years. And I spent 6 years waiting tables every single weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and trying to study at the same time to get through school, to get to that level. So those skills I was able to apply to my business right away, right? My ability to deal with people, my ability to deal with work, my ability to do work on the weekends, which was a normal thing for me to do. So by the end, it just kind of all made sense, but it took years to figure out, and it took a lot of time, and that decision to not do it was hard, right? Because I told my family, my friends, everyone knew I was going, and I didn't want it to seem like I was giving up. I didn't want people to think that I was weak or I wasn't, willing to work hard. That was the last thing that I wanted people to think.
Yeah, man, that's actually an amazing story. Like, I feel like I want to resonate with so many of those things. Like, I think, like, for a lot of people out there, like, that hustle, like, that ability to kind of go and be like, you know what, Kay, this is what I want right now. Like, what I want right now is to get into dental school. There's nothing I want more than that. And then you did whatever you had to do to make that happen. But then you also had the ability to be like, you know what, even though I've made this work, even though I made it happen, just because I've set this course doesn't mean I have to stay there, right? So that skill set, like that determination to make that happen, you've learned that skill, you've had that, and now you're able to take it to what is actually passionate for you. There's a lot of people who, that story of, okay, you know what, I didn't get what I wanted, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. The fact that they did that, I feel like they would have been like, ooh, even if they're having cold feet about it, they would have stuck with it because they're like, well, now I did all this, right? So, like, the fact that you were able to do that, take a step back and say, hey, you know what, this isn't what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and find what I do want to do. Like, that's an amazing story. Like, honestly, it really is.
Yeah, thanks. No, it was definitely a hard time, to kind of make that decision. But I urge anyone who is stuck on whether or not they should pursue something, find what you're passionate about, find what sets your soul on fire, and just pursue it with 100%. The past 2 or 3 years of starting Ketovation and kind of getting our supplements going next week under K Nutri, like, it's been insanely difficult, but it's been so much fun because it's been exactly what I wanted every single day. And it could be a 12, 14, 16-hour day, and it still feels amazing to do what I love. And it beats working 4 hours at a job that I would hate. 100%.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think that the one of the biggest callings in life, and I think a lot of people miss out on this, is once again just finding your calling. Like, one of the biggest callings in life is finding your purpose. And it's not necessarily like a purpose, it could be a goal. Like, if it's a big long-term life goal, it's your purpose is going towards that goal. But a lot of times people don't take the time to self-reflect to even realize what that goal or that vision or that purpose is. So I think, yeah, same thing what you're saying. Like, people need to just really, it doesn't matter if it's a big goal or a small goal. There's no right ones or wrong ones. It's just find that thing, whether it's a passion, whether it's a current milestone and achievement, and do everything it takes. Like, put your life on the line to go after that. And that's kind of what I think life is all about. You know, finding something to live for. It doesn't have to be something super dramatic. It could be anything, but something that it's worth getting up in the morning. You get excited about it. And just go towards that every single day, like, no matter what. And that's the same common trait with all successful people, is that it doesn't matter what their goal is or what the purpose is, but they go at it 100%.
Yeah, and I think you just answered my last question, but just to sum things up, like, what piece of advice would you give to anyone looking to take that next step in their life, whether it be in the gym or in their job or in their business, whatever it may be?
There's just a million reasons not to. A million. Like, there's a million reasons. And if you're the type of person, you can look at it so many ways. Like, if you're the type of person who spends so much time on social and, you know, you're like, I'm going to look at this person and you're like, why can't I be like that? And you're trying to do it, but then you keep focusing on them more than anything. You know, I think the biggest thing you got to do is just understand that, like, it's your choice to take that step. Just do it. Don't be like the other 99%. If you're idolizing somebody and you want to be like them, they are not like the rest of people who just want to go ahead and make an excuse as to why they're not doing something. If you're sitting there feeling that way, take the step, take a chance, go ahead and do it. Like, just getting started is the biggest part of it. And people talk about it and it is cliche. It's like, take that first step, walk before you can run. But it's just the most basic sort of thing. Whatever motivated you at the time, whenever you get that feeling, that fire that like gets you going, remember why you got that fire and don't forget it till you reach that goal, because there are going to be days that are ups and downs. Like, you will absolutely have it. I promise you, within 3 days of starting whatever you want to do, starting a business, starting a side hustle, trying to get fit, starting a diet, within 3 days, you're going to be like, I should probably quit this. And it's going to happen again a week later and a month later and 3 months later after that. Like, that's the real willpower. Just have that. Take that first step and fight through that and figure out, you know, what motivated you to get there. So I always tell people, like, just honestly take that first step. And when the next challenge comes, just have that same mentality, take another step and just keep going forward with it.
Amazing. Love it. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. It's been awesome to catch up with you in person. So if you want, just let everyone know if they want to connect with you as well as your company, where they can find you, say on Instagram or your website.
Yeah, for sure. If they want to connect with me directly, they can just email me at Marc. So it's MARC at truLOCAL.ca. And if you do like what we do and you have been looking for a better protein source, you can always check us out. Obviously, www.truLOCAL.ca, and on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, it's at truLOCAL. So once again, TRULOCAL, no E. But yeah, if you guys ever want to talk like anything at all, love talking business, love talking health, love talking anything, you can always email that email, like I said before, and I'd love to chat.
Amazing. All right. And once again, we're on the K Nation Movement podcast. My name is Arjen Frizzelli. You can look forward to our launch of our supplements coming in the next week or so. That will be at K Nutri on Instagram, and it'll also be www.knutri.com. So thanks, Marc.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Sweet.